Good evening again. Welcome to our third guest speaker session. Highly requested talk from Michal about large scale Scrum. And he will be basically sharing with us what we already heard from him, some experience sharing, uh, how it is to go through large scale Scrum adoption, some tips, lessons learned, and hopefully we will all find something interesting. With that, I can hand over to you, Michal, if you are okay with that.
Thank you very much, Marian. I'm glad to be here again. Agile Bratislava is one of my favorite meetups next to Scrum Beer Prague. So Scrum Beer Prague and Agile Bratislava, my really best meetups I'm attending. And for today, we had a lot of discussions about what we did during adoption of large-scale Scrum. So for today, as Marian said very nicely, I would like to share with you some learnings. So if you want to know something about the large-scale Scrum framework, it's nice to start with it. And this is large-scale Scrum. You can find a lot of information about it on LeSS webpage and the books written by Craig Larman and Buzz Watt. There's also another beautiful book, Large-Scale Scrum itself. But the webpage is the most important information source for you if you are interested in LeSS. And definitely there is a certified LeSS practitioner course led by a lot of great LeSS trainers, and it's definitely worth of it. But anyway, for today, we are not going to talk about the framework itself, even if it's very, very interesting. I would like to share with you my personal learnings. We did quite successful adoption of large-scale Scrum in one company. And let's start. So first of all, when we start with adoption, and I was playing the role of semi-manager, semi-Scrum Master, I realized that actually when you come with the idea to do some kind of transformation and use the large-scale Scrum as a framework, from this moment, everybody believes that you are responsible for it. So since this moment, every single time when something should happen, it's your turn, which is basically correct. The cool part is that it doesn't matter if you bring the framework or if you bring the idea, but in every situation, it's your turn. In this particular case, when you bring the new idea and everybody expects that you will make decisions, you will make a lot of work, it's wrong expectation, because then you are overloaded. And this is what I did at the very beginning. I said that, okay, guys, I bring it here. I'm the one who will lead this whole transformation, and I'm the one who will actually know the answers. And I will make decisions. And from the very beginning, it was pretty easy. Just advice here, advice there, and how should we change the company? And yeah, this is the game. We can play it and so on. But by the time a lot of things start happening, and really a lot start happening. The whole company start changing, and at that moment I realized that I know that it's my turn, but others must play the game as well. So the crucial change in my role and in my behavior was that I'm the one whose turn is right now, but I need to make sure that others are playing. So basically, whenever there was a discussion about making decision that we must do something like this or like that and so on, it was important that we start thinking in principles. We start creating the idea of the game. So we really introduce the game. And this was the crucial part of the whole adoption. Since that moment, a lot of people start understanding much better what we are doing, so they can start making decisions by their own. And it was much, much, much easier life. So even if you feel responsible for everything, don't forget that it's your turn, but others must play the game as well. And when we are talking about decisions, I realized that common culture in Czech and Slovakia is that we must agree on everything. And that's definitely model for going nowhere. When you want to make no progress, just make sure that everybody agree. And this is what we are doing. And this is what we were doing. We were like changing the company. So we want to be sure that everybody is on the same page. So we want agreement and thumbs up for everybody. Yeah, this is cool. We want to do it. And this was the big mistake. It's nice if you are 2, 3 people, but what do you do when you are 80 or 100? When the whole group you are changing is 100 people, you cannot go for agreement with 100 people. Luckily, there is a lot of practices for decision makings, and my favorite one is consent decision making from Sociocracy 3.0, and that's basically you don't present agreement, but you present disagreement. So while you are silent, you consent the solution, the decision. You give the consent. So the Sociocracy 3.0 was found by me completely by accident when I was trying to find another decision model. And I realized that there is a huge list of practices, very, very applicable for group decision making, working with the groups, and a lot of things like this. So sociocracy is a great thing, and consent decision making is something that we use basically every single week, and then we spread it to as a common way of making decisions. So from everyone agree to giving consent, it was a long way, very painful way, but it's worth of it definitely, and people will be actually more happy than by sitting around the table and trying to make the agreement together. And another learning was that Scrum Master is guardian of transparency. This is said on every single Scrum Master course. Every time when you are somewhere, a lot of people say that you are the guardian of transparency. But the trick is, what do you mean by guardian of transparency? The meaning of this is completely different when you are working in one Scrum team and you are playing the role of the guardian of transparency for the team. Immediately when you are in the LeSS environment, your playground is much, much bigger. And the transparency suddenly is not only towards the team or teams, but also towards the management. You as the company, you start making change and you start adopting LeSS for some reason. And you want to make company better, usually. So it's important for the company to know what's happening. Just imagine that the role of the manager is completely different in LeSS than in standard setup. Suddenly, the managers are working with the boundaries. Suddenly, the managers are responsible for something totally different than assigning tasks to the team. It's the same with the PO. Suddenly, the PO must really work as the real PO, so giving the direction. It's the same with the management. They just must give you the direction. And for this, they need the data. They need a lot of data. They need the data for changing the direction, setting expectations, but also to make sure that you are on the track. And they need to have a feeling that you have a grip as well as they have a grip over what's happening. So the guardian of transparency here is not only for data to use for retrospective or improvements, but also to actually make sure that the company is going in the right direction, to set up expectations and to check that expectations are met, or then use it for the improvements. And when we are talking about improvements, there is one great tool, and that's called system thinking. When we were working with one team, it was like pretty visible what can be done. This is a point for improvement. Yeah, from retrospective, this was not so great. We can improve it somehow. But suddenly you are in the totally different playground. It's much bigger, and suddenly your environment consists of not only development teams, but you are touching project management office, you are touching marketing, you are touching even C-level, you are touching incentives, bonuses, everything. So you must understand what's happening in the company. When you try to change something on a very local base, like in the team, then you can very easily react from what you see there. And the typical behavior of the change is that it usually grows better before it goes worse. And when we start playing the game of large-scale Scrum, it was always like, we fix this because we see that this is the issue. But suddenly everything went wrong. And we had no idea what's happening. So we were trying to do and fix every single thing. So really, we were firefighters, and we tried to fix every single problem which was there. And then we realized that, okay, this is not a very sustainable way of working for us. So we need to make the change, but in the way how we work. And the system thinking was the way which helps us a lot. It's basically finding the causal loops, cause and effect, and understand what's happening in your system. When we were thinking a lot about the problems, then we were using approach like when we have one elephant and we split the elephant to two, we have two elephants and we can solve it somehow. This is really the way how many people think. If you have a big problem, you split it to two small problems, solve two small problems, and you think that you got it. But you are completely wrong. So we used system thinking at the beginning. We were just practicing, and we realized that there is a potential to understand what's happening. For example, this is a nice system model where we play the game how to actually improve our failing planning. And the result from this is that if you want to fix your planning, you must focus on refinements. So we, instead of trying to make planning better, we focused on refinements, and by the refinements, by making refinements better, we fix the planning. And this is very important. System thinking is your best friend here. Another thing related to, for example, transparency and to show the numbers, to show the data. You need to know what to show, what is interesting for the people. And system model, so from system thinking, is a great way how to find the right metrics for your system. So we know what you are measuring, and from the system, from your perspective, what you see is something that can show you what's happening overall. Because some of the things are very hard to measure, but some are very easy to measure. If you know what's the cause, what's the effect, then it's much easier for you to measure surroundings, which are very easily measurable, and then you can see how probably the main things is going. It's the same with leading and lagging metrics. You can find a lot of variables with leading metrics, and then you don't need to wait for final lagging metrics. So the applications is basically infinite, and we were using it regularly for almost every bigger problem solving issue. And with system modeling, I will mention system modeling, system thinking quite more times during the presentation. So this is it. Another learning, and this was the big learning for many of us, is that politics is inevitable part of your job. So if somebody says that you, as Scrum Master, doing a lot of things on company level, and you are making impact, you are having impact in the scale, and but you don't like politics, and you don't do politics, then It sounds smelly. Most likely, you are either doing politics and you don't want to say it, or you are not having the impact you are saying. What is important here is that not only you making politics is important, but also you to check the politics is important. A lot of office politics is happening anyway. You want it or you don't, it's there. And because you are guardian of transparency, you must make also politics very transparent. It's really part of your job to, on one hand, doing politics, and on another hand, checking what kind of politics is happening in the company. Politics can be your very good friend, but at the same time, it's your worst enemy. If you don't have a grip over the politics in your office, then you are lost. A lot of things will happen, and you will have no idea that's happening. And the politics are two kinds of politics. One is destructive, and one is constructive. Constructive politics is when you are doing it, or somebody is doing it for the higher purpose, for really some purpose that it's public and that you want to achieve something. Destructive politics is when you are doing it for your own benefits. And that's the only reason why you're doing it. You want to save your job, you want to save your role, you want to save your position, you want to save your influence. So you are doing politics. And this kind of politics is very, very dangerous. It's happening all the time. A lot of people is aware that it's happening, but actually it's not checking it. So the learning from it was that we, as the group of Scrum Masters, we had a web page, really part of the wiki, which was not public part of the wiki, and we were making notes. I heard this. I heard this. I got a coffee with the guys, and in the kitchen, I heard this. And we had a long list of things that we heard. And this creates the context. Because the politics is actually part of your context that you are working in. And the context is everything. So you must know what's happening in a company, what kind of chit chats people are having. And if you know it, you don't need to address it. You don't need to go and solve the issue. You just need to know that something is happening so you can work with it. And it creates your context. Politics, do the politics, do it constructive, but also know what kind of politics is happening. And when you are doing things in the scale, as I said, we were a group of Scrum Masters, and the community of Scrum Masters is a crucial part of the success. We discussed this on some of the previous meetups, that actually every Scrum Master is working with his own team and doing things with this team or two teams, and that the primary team for the Scrum Masters are actual development teams. What I learned is that it's not true. That your primary team as a Scrum Master are other Scrum Masters. So whatever you are doing with others as a team. You share the pain, you share the gain, you share the knowledge, you share the skill, and you share everything. You are planning the work together, you are planning improvements together. If there are victories, you are celebrating together. If there is a shame, then it's going to you all together. Also, why it's important is because of this beautiful picture from Les Works webpage, and it's actually focus of the Scrum Masters during the time. There are four areas. One is product owner, which is the red line. And at the beginning of the adoption, you as a Scrum Masters, you spend most of the time with the product owner. Your focus is primary on the product owners. Then on the teams, and then the organization. And especially from the very beginning, the organization. Why it's on the organization, there are two reasons. First of all, you are making a change on organizational level. So the organization is much more willing to make a lot of changes that are usually not possible. Another reason is that you have no idea which part of the company is actually going to change with you as well. There is a lot of processes. There is a lot of relationships between how marketing is working with developers, how project managers are working with the developers or product owners or team leads. And you will realize it in the moment when you start working in large-scale Scrum. What we did, for example, was that we said that, okay, we are going to set up the bubble around the team of teams, and nothing will change for the rest of the company. So we were preparing ourselves as a Scrum Masters. Yeah, it's going to be fine. We are going to focus on the teams and the processes inside the teams. And bump, when we did it, bubble didn't work. And actually, we spent most of the time with HR, project managers, marketing, and this kind of departments. Because of the processes we changed. Suddenly, the customer support, they had no idea where to send the request for help, where they should send the bug report, to which team, because suddenly there is a one team of teams. So where to send it, who will manage it? And these kind of problems. This is usually very, very bad at the beginning. So it requires a lot of your focus, but very quickly it goes to the normal state. So you don't need to spend a lot of time with the organization. And development practices, at the beginning, you really don't care much about development practices because you don't have a time. You are really fully booked by product owners, by teams, and the organization. With the product owner at the beginning, for the product owner, it's totally new situation. You suddenly have one product owner for all the teams. And many product owners are simply used to just give tasks to the team. At the very best case, they are used to give epics or some bigger chunks of works to the teams. But this is not how it works in large-scale Scrum. And I will come back, and this is so important topic that I will come to the product owners later. With the teams, at the beginning, they are lost, but very soon, by self-organization and by working with the boundaries, they will it will set up, and it will be pretty okay. And then it comes back to the game, the organizational level and the organization focus. You need to start reworking a lot of organization processes because the large-scale Scrum will change the way how the company works. That's one thing. And another thing is that suddenly you will have, usually the R&D is bottleneck for the company. And with large-scale Scrum is so transparent and so visible that what's happening, that R&D is working faster than the rest of the company. So you must change your focus to the rest of the company to get a pace and really do balancing. So queuing theory here and again, system thinking is something that's helping you. And the development practices are suddenly coming to be very, very important because the way how you develop the software and the technical excellence is crucial part of your further success. It very, very fast becomes your constraint. So that's it. What is important to think about? This is an enormous amount of skills you must have. And it's literally impossible to have all the skills in one guy. So why you need the community of Scrum Masters is that you need to have the set of skills in the group so you can use the skills from the group. And when you are hiring Scrum Master, you are suddenly not hiring just the Scrum Master, but you are hiring skills. It's the same behavior in every single team. You are hiring for the skills. You are not hiring the people because you just need one more guy to the team. So when you are hiring Scrum Master in this situation, in community of Scrum Masters, you are really trying to find the guy with specific skills. And one story from this is then when we start when we try to find Scrum Master who will actually help us to improve in like all areas, almost at once, we realize that many people just send us a response that, nah, this is not possible. Some of them reply with, yeah, okay, we can help you with this and this and this area, and it's like 5,000 euros per day. And we were like, what the hell? So it was strong learning that actually we need to work on skills. We need to hire the skills, and we really need to improve the skills. So really the dynamics is the same as in development team. Now you have the team of Scrum Masters, and this is the way how you can help the company. When I was talking about the beginning and the rush time after you start working in large scale Scrum, it's extreme amount of things that must be done. And we introduced something like Scrum for Scrum Masters. So it was really the Scrum with everything. And just one cool thing that was that every single sprint was somebody else Scrum Master. We had the sprints synchronized with the development team, so it was really following the pace of the company. And again, funny story, nobody wants to be Scrum Master for Scrum Masters. Especially after second sprint, when we realized that this is really like being a Scrum Master in the kindergarten. So we start using Wheel of Fortune with the names, because nobody wants to be Scrum Master for Scrum Masters. And what it brings to us was something that everybody expect, and that's focus. We were forced to have focus on something for achieving goals. So it was not doing activity here and here and here, but we really need to focus, and all the reasons why you want to have Scrum are basically here. With Scrum for Scrum Masters, there was one big learning that while it worked brilliantly at the beginning, when the system set up somehow and it was more or less stable, Scrum for Scrum Masters became the biggest limitations of the progress of the community of Scrum Masters. Because we need to always set up the goal for 2 weeks, but suddenly we were making changes much further in time than 2 weeks. So we dismissed the Scrum for Scrum Masters and we went for something totally different, and that was achieving goals. So we were setting the goals for like 4-6 weeks, and in this moment we involve C-level. So we were setting the goals not by us Scrum Masters, but also with the very top management. So the guy who was responsible for the whole R&D was sitting with us and helping us set the goals. And this was the way how we actually were able to make a lot of improvements. While we were doing a lot of things, still think about that it's your turn, but let others play. We quickly realized that it's impossible for us, especially in the preparation phase, that we can do everything. And we start working with influencers. It is so powerful that if you are not using it, start using it. Instead of doing everything by yourself, have influencers for particular domains. And then all you need to do is actually talk to influencers, and they will manage it somehow, magically. You just need to follow up on the topic, and influencers will do the job. On other hand, influencers are also on other side of the barrier. So if somebody don't like what you are doing, they will try to do their best to actually stop the adoption of LeSS. If they are afraid of losing the role or power, they will try to stop everything what you are doing. So again, influencers, really focus on them in area of helping you, but also focus on influencers to stop demolishing your adoption. And when we are talking about how to do it, we realize, and especially I realize, that the storytelling is your strongest weapon. A lot of people believe that they can do brilliant storytelling. Actually, how it looks like, it's really like HD storytelling. This is how usual storytelling by many of us looks like. You are going there and back and there and back, and finally at the end, after 1 hour, you just apologize that what was the story about, and nobody knows. There is a very little impact of this kind of storytelling, and this is what we are doing. For example, I asked Marian especially to not allow questions during my talk, because I know that I will be distracted by it, and my storytelling will suddenly be this kind of storytelling. We love to talk, we love to discuss, and especially when you are at the beginning, before the flip, before the adoption of the LeSS, you are in the preparation phase, you try to be very open, you try to explain every single question, but you try to explain it during your talk. And that's completely wrong, because at the end, nobody knows what your message was. Everybody remembers that somebody said that you are not right, and you try to defend yourself. So really go with storytelling as short as possible. Go from top to the bottom, tell it as a story. If you say something like, you need to do this because it's in the book, nobody cares. If you tell them the story of the success from the top to the bottom, from the principle to the practice, then they will understand what you are saying. Maybe they don't agree, but at least they understand what you are saying. And that's first step to success. And again, we are back to system thinking, because the great tool how to actually set up the talk, set up the message, create the story around what you need to do is this model. You just know what is important for you, what you want to optimize, and then you just create the story, tell the story. We know that we need to improve the planning, and we must focus on the refinement, because blah, 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 and you go through the model. It's very helpful. When we go for a next learning, this was pretty long-term learning. And many times we just said on the Scrum Master course that you are a mentor, you are a coach. And sometimes you must mentoring, some must be coaching, but actually sometimes you must push, really push. It's not about mentoring. You just go and say, and now we are going to do this. No discussion, just go and do this. You can try to explain it. You can try to get their buy-in, but it must be clear push. On the refinement, you are locked, you just push. Sometimes you must wait, just actively doing nothing. You are there, you are with them, but you intentionally do nothing. And you must know why you are doing it. Observing. You must see what others don't see. That's your job. Bring the transparency to know what others don't know. If they don't see the problem, it's your responsibility to see it before them. Because this is the way how you can actually bring the improvements. And this is the trick, how you actually do it. You need to create the sense of urgency. But how you do it when you are not part of their daily job? You are no longer working with them every single day with 100 people. You are with your Scrum Masters. So you as the group, you must work together to create a sense of urgency in the whole group. And you need to be good mentor and good coach. With good mentor, I mean that Scrum Master is a very senior position. I used to say that when you are excellent in your position and you start being Scrum Masters, you are a junior Scrum Master. Senior guy on previous position is just the junior guy on the Scrum Master level. Because you need to absorb an enormous amount of learning how to actually achieve something. So from the senior somewhere, you go to junior Scrum Master. If you are not senior in the previous job, you will have a lot of problems and a lot of troubles, and especially in the skilled environment. Basically, because you have no idea how to mentor. Mentoring is a crucial part of our job, and especially when you are in a skilled environment, you need to mentor suddenly not your team only, but because of the spread of the skills, you must mentor somebody from 100 people, 150 people, a lot of people. And it's the same with the coaching. You must know how to coach and when to coach. It's not like, yeah, okay, I'm Agile coach, I'm Scrum Master, I'm here to coach, and we have very, very nervous situation, high stakes, and you start coaching. Well, good luck. It's no success, definitely. So you must know how to coach. And really, by coaching, I mean true coaching. Like imagine that you are a life coach. It's the same way. It's not like a coaching that you say that, yeah, we really need to. So why you are doing this and bring the team to find the answers. You must be the real coach. You must first help them to find what they want. So true coaching. And when we are talking about working with a big group, there is one very important thing, and that's communities of practice. We learned that communities of practice can help you in the same way as destroy you. There are two communities of practice that are a must. This is the learning I have, and that's community of practice of Scrum Masters, which is basically your primary team, and communities of practice for architecture. There is nothing more important than have the solid architecture together for all the teams. The role of architects is to be garant of the direction, of the technical direction of the product. And you need to make sure that this is going to every single team. So these two communities of practice, I would say now are mandatory. If I go to do LeSS adoption once again somewhere, as I'm doing, I will go for two communities of practice, and that's Scrum Masters and architects. Communities of practice with Scrum Masters is a little bit more than your primary team of Scrum Masters. You actually want to have there another leaders. You want to align your changes with another leaders. And by leaders, I mean you have the head of architecture, then this is guy who should be in your community of practice. If you have the lead developer, this guy should be there. If you have the head of UX, it should be there. The important is that everybody is on the same page and moving in the same direction. And these guys must support you. You must have their support. So they must be together with you in the boat when you are swimming. And it's very, very dangerous to let them handle your decisions after your decisions are made and put in practice. So if they are part of decision making, of setting up the goals, then it's much easier for you to actually have it in the real life. These guys are usually these influencers, but if you bring them to the decision process and really have them part of the community of practice, then it's much, much easier. You need to choose the fights you are fighting, and actually with the communities of practice of Scrum Masters, with including these guys, it's much, much easier. Communities of practice are also helping you to get the baseline for example, technology. The first successful community of practice we had was security. It's important to have kind of security, Unix level of security in the software, and usually this security team is a standalone team. But this makes all the decisions and all the work longer. You need to always go there, ask for permission, go back, is it okay or not? Or in the worst case, you just do something that they will review it and then return it back that, this is not working, rebuild it. The much better way is that the security is directly inside the teams. And the community's practice is absolutely brilliant here, because you have the group of people meeting every second week together, discuss what we are going to do with the security. And at the same time, they are in the teams, so they can share the knowledge. They are there immediately. So when they have discussions on refinement, doing daily stand-up, daily scrum, that we are going to do something, they are there. So the whole process is much, much shorter. And this was just example of very successful community of practice. And the biggest issue with communities of practice is how to actually set up the correct decision rights. Communities of practice sometimes would like to have the rights to rule the world. So if I am the community of practice for Java, I am the one who will set the standards for all the Java developers. And this is the trick, how to actually handle it, how to set the coding guidelines, how to set the rules. And it needs some time for the people to realize how to do it. It's very context dependent, it's very cultural dependent, but there are always somehow situations that these things happen. So communities of practice, use them as much as possible, but don't use them too much. Oops. And together with communities of practice, we have self-organization. And I would really like to mention that it always happens. And you don't even know that it's happening, but it's happening. If somebody tell me now, after 3 years with adoption, that we are building self-organized teams, well, I just make a smile. Because now I know that self-organization is always there. This is nature of the human. Self-organization is always there. What is happening is that you don't like how the self-organization looks. That's the issue. If you have the people where everybody is playing individual role and they don't want to talk each other, then there is a reason. Self-organization required 3 things: shared goals, clear accountabilities, and clear boundaries. If they don't have shared goals, then they are doing self-organization on their private level. If they don't have clear accountabilities, oh, well, who cares? And if there are no boundaries, then the self-organization basically means that everybody is covering his own ass. So we need to work with the boundaries. Just imagine one cool thing, that even the way how you pay the bonuses is boundary. This is creating environment in which the people are operating. So if you are talking about the self-organization, that you want to build the self-organization, stop talking about it. Just start talking about adjusting the boundaries so the self-organization is going in the direction you want. You are setting the culture. You need to work with the boundaries. You need to understand these boundaries. Many times you maybe don't even know that you are setting the boundaries. For example, when in the culture, when you accept some kind of behavior, you just set the boundary. You accept this behavior. You set the boundary for self-organization, and immediately a lot of things start happening. So the people will start organize around your boundaries. And when we are talking about setting the boundaries, it's mostly about the management. The role of the management is completely different. The role of the management is working with the environment and provide the environment that can be used by other people to deliver the great result. And for this, you must understand management. And by understand management, I mean two things. Understand management itself as a skill. So to have the skill of managers, but also understand the management as a role really to managers. They are having really tough times. Usually when you go into scale, a lot of managers are not needed anymore. You need to work with them. You need to find some other role for them, or just make agreement that, yeah, it was a great time with you, but thank you very much now. We will try to help you find a new job. Think about the pressure that it's making on the managers. A lot of people don't understand the pressure that it's making on the managers. You have the beautiful OKR system, but then you have the KPIs on the managers. Your bonuses of the managers are paid by KPIs, not by OKRs. Find the way how the managers are paid. Find the way how they behave and provide them support. If you don't do it and you skip it, then the managers will actually destroy your work because they will try to keep the status quo of management. There are famous Larman's laws, then they are in practice. And one of them says that middle management will do anything to keep status quo. And that's reality. If you don't understand what these guys are thinking about, what these guys are doing, then disaster is going to happen. And disaster, I mean your two galaxies are going to crash. And there can be only one winner, of course. So you really need to have the skills of the managers to manage the system around you, but also to understanding for the managers, how they work, how they think, why they are doing things. So you can support them. You don't need to fight with them. You need to support them and they will pay back. And the way how you can actually do is responsibility process. And this is incredibly powerful, even with working with developers, with anybody in the company. It's actually how you became responsible. When you are a team of teams, almost managerless environment, everybody must be brave to do something with the issues. You are responsible for your own life. You are responsible for the good of the team. And you are suddenly part of the team of teams. And the team of teams is part of something bigger and so on. So you must have kind of responsibility. And when you are working during the transformation, a lot of people are simply not presenting kind of responsibility. We say, oh, but they don't care. And it's not about they don't care. Usually when I say that they don't care, it means for me now that they don't see what I see. Anyway, back to responsibility process. This is how the storytelling should not look like. I just switched to a different topic. So back to responsibility process. And responsibility, when you have any problem, go through a couple of stages. And this is a great work from Christopher Avery. It's even the book. And it's how you go through the handling of the problem, handling of the situations. At the beginning, denial. You just ignore the problem. Or you just even don't know that there is a problem. Then you just like blame to somebody, justify, shame, obligation to the situation. And then finally, you have the responsibility that now I'm going to do something with it. Anytime you can just quit with the solution, you can just follow as an obligation. And you must read the situation. You must see where the people are so we can do appropriate steps. When you see that they are in denial or lay blame, Just don't go and don't ask them for responsibility. And just be aware that after justify, there is a shame stage. So be there and help them with it. Every single guy will go through this process. Sometimes you will go so fast that you don't even realize that you are in this phase. But think about it. So when you hear that somebody just justify using excuse for why the situation is like this, and in the next opportunity when you're going to have one-on-one, that can be a shame. Like, oh, how it's possible that I didn't even saw it before? It's my bad. I'm very sorry about it. Just help this guy go through it as fast as possible. And when we are talking about going through the issues, a lot of people are using gamification. And of course, what can happen? So we use gamification as well. And we realize with the great help of Ken Singer that the gamification is for the senior guys. With senior guys, I mean true senior guys who knows what they are doing. That really knows what they are doing. Gamification is a great tool in theory. In practice, it didn't work for a simple reason. When we want to achieve something, we are usually setting up zero-sum game, so we win. But what we are doing in the companies, we are playing infinite game. Our goal is not to win. Our goal is to keep players playing while company wins. And to create this kind of game, it's extremely complicated. We tried to do it in a couple of ways, but it didn't work. So I would suggest if you don't have experience with setting up games and gamification, practice it in a small scale, practice it somewhere, but don't try it in the scale. If it will work, good for you. Most likely it will not, because somehow, miraculously, we always created a zero-sum game at the end, even if we didn't think about it. So instead of gamification, we start using more system thinking, which help us much more than actually gamification. Gamification is cool, and many people will try to sell their services just because, we know how to use gamification. So just be aware. This is very tricky. There is no heaven without a good product owner. I said at the beginning that the product owner will consume a lot of your focus, energy, and time. And the good product owner is the one who is communicating with the customers through product vision and product strategy, and to the teams via focus. So the good product owner in large-scale Scrum is giving focus to the teams. Everything else is handled by the teams. It's impossible for a product owner anymore to attach the work to one team. Oh, you will do this, you will do this, you will do this. Product owner is so busy, but by actually doing communication with the customers, that it's practically impossible for him to do this. You have one product owner, you have one product backlog, and you must somehow manage it. Product vision, product strategy is something that is a must. If you don't have the product strategy, then you are doing something here, something there, and people are very soon upset, and it's not a good situation. We were there, and people complain why we are doing this when this is more important, but we don't know if it's important or not. We start doing this and we finish this. No, we didn't finish it. The most complicated thing for the companies is actually to finish what is started. This is the most complicated task for every company. And now you have the product owner who must manage the situation in the company and be guarantee that when we start something, we finish it, and we start just enough initiatives to be able to finish them on time. And this is the good product owner. And what you have now in the large-scale Scrum, you have one backlog. So whenever you have a good product owner who try to play games with hypos or with other customers that just pretend some progress, you have one product backlog. It means that it's immediately visible. And you, as a Scrum Masters, you must make it even more visible. So this is really, really important. Stop starting, start finishing. And you need a good product owner because this is the tough, very, very tough job to say no to customers when you have 10 teams around you. It's much, much harder job than say no when you have one team, because now you are in charge of a lot of decisions. So the good product owner is really the key to have the good life or bad life. And now something for my friend Bruno Veronesi, who is here. He's an engineer from this company, and technical excellence is his favorite part of job. And check your technical excellence first. And by first, I mean before even starting adoption. If you don't have working CI, you will have very tough time soon. If you don't write nice code, then you have a very hard time. Suddenly people are communicating via the code. So if you have the code, with the code, it's like with the joke. If you need to explain it, it's bad. It's very easily, you can very easily check the quality of the code. And people cannot talk each other like every 5 minutes because you have 100 people. They will do nothing else than talking to each other, and yeah, while we like it, and I would like to see how developers are talking each other. Just imagine how many developers you hired with the idea, so they are sitting in the room and talking. So they need to communicate through the code. And the technical excellence is something that will give you the big kiss in front of your face, like a couple of weeks after you start adoption of LeSS. Because people are working together on the same initiatives from many teams. They are touching the same code. They need to know that they don't need to know that it's still working. They at least need to know that they don't destroy anything. So technical excellence is something that you must focus on it, and we focused a lot on the technical excellence, and anyway, it was not enough. And when we talk about the technical excellence, I must go immediately to Scrum and how we work with the Scrum in the companies. I saw a lot of mechanical Scrums, or if you want now, favorite word is zombie Scrum. The teams are doing Scrum by doing all the events. They even call it ceremonies. We have planning, we have stand-up, we have review, we have retrospective, we have refinement. So we are doing Scrum. We're in the same situation where we believe that, yeah, we are good in Scrum. We are practicing Scrum, but we didn't understood Scrum. And by didn't understood Scrum, I mean we didn't make decisions around the principles. So if you don't see your product backlog as the transparency of your possible future, then something is fishy. If you don't see the planning as the place where you plan collaboration and learning for the next sprint, it will be very hard for you to make planning in scale. And by this mechanical Scrum, this gives us technical KO in second round. Not in the first round. We survived first round because in the first round, you just don't care about the Scrum at all. You care about the surviving of the whole environment. In the first 2-3 weeks, you are just setting up all the processes, as I mentioned before. But then, when it comes to the real life, and the people don't understand the purpose, the true purpose of things in the Scrum, it hurts and makes everything much, much, much slower. And that's why it's important to have somebody experienced with you. Many, many times I said that if one has had more support from experienced guys who were there before, you don't need it in the situations that there is no pressure for you. If there are no expectations, like, okay, in 1 year, we want to be here. But in case that you want to have serious progress and you want to be moving everything towards the expectations and don't try to provoke the ones in charge and with the budget, then you need to do it very carefully. You must know what is happening, what will probably happen, if it's worth of effort to invest your effort to this activity or not. Guys who helped us a lot were guys from co-learning, and these three guys mainly, Jürgen, Eric, and Mark. And when I was there for 1 week during the adoption, and I spent the whole week with them, and I have a very, very strong learning from this week. And it was, they asked me what they can do better to actually help us more. And I said, just give us your toolbox. You have so many tools, practices, and techniques that we can use. Just open your toolbox and we can be much, much more efficient. And at that moment, they told to me, wow, and what you are going to do with all the tools, with all the practices. Everything depends on the context. Context is changing day by day, slightly. You need to change the tools. You need to select the right tools, right practice, right technique for your current situation, for your current context, and your current skills. It's completely useless for you to give you 500 tools when you don't know what to use when. And with these tools, many of these tools requires kind of skills in the Scrum Master community on technical level, with developers, managers, whoever. If you don't have this, then by using this tool or practice, you will do more harm than actually you will have benefits. To finish in the positive way, many failures will happen on the road, but don't take them personally. When you're Scrum Masters doing large-scale Scrum and everybody is looking at you, that you are the lighthouse, you used to take every single failure as your personal failure. Planning went wrong. Yeah, it's my failure because I didn't did it wrong. Failures just happen. Don't take them personally. Take them as an opportunity for a learning, and then do learning. And that's all, my friends. I almost hit the time. Thank you very much for your attention. Now Q&A with Marian.
Yeah, Michal, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I can jump right into it. I took 4 questions if I was careful enough from the chat. So I'll just go one by one. Where is the borderline between transparency and privacy?
Yeah, that's the tricky part. What I learned here is that you must provide as much transparency as the receiver is able to accept. So the transparency and privacy, it's I would say you never share one-on-one stories, but you always share what is visible anywhere. Maybe I don't get the question. If you can somehow rephrase it if you want, then it can help. But my only answer here is don't share things from one-on-ones, don't share private things. But if you are going to share any data from Jira, from Git, from whatever, then this is not a privacy. They are just the public data, and you are providing them.
Okay. So question was from Pavel. Pavel, you're happy with the answer?
Oh yeah, thank you. It was about privacy and transparency on the team level or team to management, like.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with the answer. Okay, thank you.
Great.
Cool. Then next one is, can you share more on the dysfunctions you noticed with Scrum Masters? And there's like a kindergarten disclaimer.
Yeah. One of it was that you need a PO. That's at the beginning, it's pretty clear. The one who is basically most experienced is the PO. As the skills grows in the group, then a lot of people start thinking that this is important, and they actually can make their own decisions. And the PO role is suddenly not important so much. But then there is the issue with the prioritization, how to choose what to work on. That's big dysfunction, and that was the biggest reason why we dismissed the Scrum for Scrum Masters. What to work for? That's why we switched to goal-oriented work as the group. So.
Okay, cool. That was a question from Tom. I just saw him. He left the room. So, Tom, you happy with that?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, my dog fell off the couch. So
okay.
yeah.
Cool. Next one is from Leah, and Leah, feel free to add. It sounds a little bit general, so if Michael needs help, how did the first few months after rollout look like from the position of the teams?
I can actually use Bruno here. Bruno was a team member. So Bruno,
Hello.
Can you share first couple of sprints after the flip? How it was from the perspective of the team member?
Well, making the premise that we were probably a team that was not so bad from the Scrum perspective. Even in that situation, the main thing was feeling of void. We felt like we didn't have actually any pavement under our feet. And I remember especially with I don't know, we dread almost the refinement and how disastrous they were and how painful and how much time we felt we were throwing in that. And so I would say that probably the first month, I think that confusion is the word that would describe them better. And after the initial confusion, after the first 2-3 months, also other teams started to get the grips of what we were doing, what Michal was saying before about understanding what, for example, planning is for, what refinement is for. And that improved a lot the quality of the sprint and of those ceremonies altogether. Finally, there was clarity. Finally, we had idea of what we were doing. And after the team knows what it is supposed to do and what is, let's say, the goal of the sprint, the fear disappears and you start learning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno. Well, is it okay, or you want more?
I can talk about We had
No,
this
no, no.
beautiful migration to Java 11 that I can tell you in all the nitty-gritty details. It was a nightmare.
Thank you very much. Not needed that much, but I really wanted to understand how it felt from the position of, going through it.
Yeah. I can add here that, for example, first sprint goal in after the flip, we start working in the large scale Scrum for Scrum Masters was survive, nothing else. It was just one word: survive.
Okay, cool. So I have one question from myself, actually. If I understand it correctly, then if you are going to do a LeSS adoption and you take the organization or a company or whatever group of people, you like literally, virtually or whatever, put them into one room and you let them form their own teams. That's what I believe is the theory. Is this something you've experienced and did? And
Yes.
how does that work? Because like I cannot wrap my head around such an idea.
Yeah. Very shortly. This is called really flip forward, or some companies flip backwards, but hopefully it's always flip forward. And it's a multi-day event, and we had 85 people in one room for 4 days. And how it looks like, it is like 1.5 months of preparation, then 4 days of pure punk. From the Scrum Master's perspective, it's improvisation. It's complete improvisation, because everything what can go wrong will go wrong. And during these 4 days, you do initial backlog refinement. So you bring the product strategy, you bring the first topics, and you do the first refinement together. Then you do estimation of the backlog. You need to have backlog estimated, because suddenly you have one product owner, and you need to do forecasts. Then you create a definition of done together. To have one definition of done for all team of teams is very important and really, really mandatory. Then you go with a team self creation. Then you go with the creating of team identity. Creating atom and the name is really important for the teams. Then you go through the refinement, but not this big high-level refinement as at the beginning, but you refine the work that you should be working in the next sprint, and you do the sprint planning. And when you are done with the sprint planning, then there is one crucial part of the flip, and that's probably the most important part of the flip, and that's celebration. You just celebrate all together that you survived 4 days together. And if you are more interested in the flip, I have a full talk about it. It's a lot of things that are happening there, so we can organize another talk here if you are interested. I did it a couple of years ago on LeSS conference, but there is no recording from it. So
Okay, sounds good. Thanks. Okay, I think that's all the questions. I don't see any more coming in the chat, so maybe I'll just pause if there are any last questions you want to ask. We have a few more minutes.
Yeah, I would like to ask, I'm curious actually, you were talking about influencers. And of course, we got two types, the one who's supporting what you do or what you are trying to sell, and the one who are not, and they are totally trying to destroy what you do.
yes.
And I want to know from you, how did you handle it?
With in our private space on the wiki, we had a table with names, areas, and really details how we are working with them. And we just do it in the way that we split the table, and we assigned Scrum Master to a couple of influencers. So we give them the very personal treatment. in the way that we support them. We gave them a lot of time. We talk to them a lot. We explain them a lot of things before. We just want to be sure that when we go for a big meeting, they will support us. And with another group, the destroyers, I would say, we were just making clear for the whole group with the one message: don't spend time with these guys a lot. Every minute you spend with the guy who is trying to destroy your effort is the lost minute that you can use to improve the system.
Yeah, but you know, they are influencer, yeah? So,
yeah. So we just, we did one more thing with this influencers table. We share it with the top management. We were very open that these are the top influencers in both directions. So whenever the destroyers comes to the top managers, start crying, they were ready for it.
great. Yeah, I mean, I was asking because we actually had this when we were trying to implement or accelerate our organization.
Mm.
And yes, simply we just went this way. There was a clear message to the management that they have to have a personal talk with them, that this is the company strategy. Like simply, yes, you may not like it, but this is the company, the way it's going. If you're not happy with it, so you need to see what you want to do next.
Yeah.
So it was very clear, and even it happened that two of them, I don't want to say they got fired, but they resigned.
Yes, the same happened.
So
yeah.
yes. I mean, I also want to highlight the fact that sometimes we need to be a bit strict or tough. Not only just the coaching way, jumping around what we really want to say. Otherwise, it's just gonna be spoiled.
Exactly. And there is one more benefit from this. Management, especially senior management, that want to be sure that you have a grip over the system, over what's happening there. And if you go there and you present that we know who are the guys who are supporting us, but we also know the guys who are destroying the effort, you present that you have it under control. And if you go to the senior management and said, hey, these guys can come to you and complain about this and this and this, and these guys then can come to the senior management and complain about the same specific things as you mentioned before, and you gain a lot of trust from senior management.
True.
And
That's
you
true.
need you need execs on your side. You need strong support. You cannot do it bottom up. You need to do it also from the top down.
Agree with you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
Thank you.
explanation.
I would like to say a thing, maybe, Misha, about the people that goes away and about the first months that layup first before, I mean, asked. And it's true, we lost a lot of people. Not a lot. We lost people that were important from the old point of view. And it was painful, but it was important for them to leave, because we wouldn't have got to the point we got if they would stay there continuously, let's say, content pressure. So it was positive. It was positive change. Painful, but positive change.
Okay, thanks. Maybe one last question, if there's any. Okay. In that case, thank you very much, Michal, for your time and for sharing all the beautiful insights. And yeah, who knows? Maybe they will be around too. Thank you all very much for joining. As a close remarks, if you are interested, if you like the session, if you are looking for more, then we plan to have more sessions on the Agile Bratislava meetup. So make sure you follow that, or you can join the Slack community if you are looking for you have a problem, you want to ask experts. Then Slack community you can find it also on agilebratislava.com, and the videos from these talks will be on YouTube channel Agile Bratislava if you want to rewatch. And with that, thank you very much all for joining, and see you next time.